Hello, everybody, and welcome to Planet FPL, the world where everything revolves around Fantasy Premier League. My name's Suj.
And my name is James.
Correspondence Week continues, episode 2. James, why don't you tell the listeners where we are headed?
We're heading to the South Coast. They went through much of last season with no goalkeeper. Now they got 4. They're also trying to buy all of Manchester City's academy. But should we be worried? Let me introduce you to Matt Samuel, our Southampton correspondent. How are you, Matt?
I'm all right. Not too bad. Yourselves?
Yeah, very well. Thank you, mate. Very well. Please tell me you are going to Poland this week after completely ruining my correspondent week schedule.
Yeah, don't worry.
Cheers, mate. Thank you. Right. I'll tell you where I'm going to start, Matt. Forwards.
I want to start with his, I'm all right. It was not the most enthusiastic, Yeah, I'm all right. Are you not in high spirits about the season ahead?
I mean, yeah, but between Saints, work life, it's just, it's been an interesting summer, let's say that.
So let's talk about Saints. Go on, James. You were going to say.
Well, yeah, me and Matt was messaging the other week about getting a forward in.
Yeah,
we have got one coming in. We should say we are pre-recording on Sunday, but time recording, and we know because Southampton announced it, an agreement in principle. Yeah. And it's agreement in principle because basically, this is a spin-off pod. Such Bordeaux, who Southampton are buying from, basically have just been demoted to the 3rd division in France, and they're a bit short of cash, and they've jumped the gun a bit early. So he's not actually a Southampton player yet. So if people are wondering why Sekou Mara doesn't have an FPL price yet, it's not official, but he's going to be, isn't he, Matt?
Yeah, 100%. He's coming.
So he's 19-year-old forward, 6 Ligue 1 goals last year in 26 appearances. He's only 19.
Yeah.
Is this the answer of what you've been looking for?
I wouldn't say it's the answer. It's positive, and it's the same direction I think we're taking this summer, which has been great. Obviously, you touched on City. I think it's good that we're bringing in young prospects, but I think it would be unfair to completely rely on a 19-year-old. Obviously, similar to, I guess, Broia last season. Brought in, we kind of flogged him for a while, then he started to pick up niggles, didn't really hit the ground running as much as we thought he would. As we all know in FPL, everybody kind of brought him in, continuously picked up 2-pointers. I don't want it to be the same. And it's all well and good bringing in this kid, but we still need another.
Okay. Was there any chance, or is there still any chance Broia will come back?
I think it's dead. I just don't think we'll pay the money that Chelsea are asking. So
that's what the issue is, essentially.
Yeah,
comes down to money. Because he wants to go somewhere and play, right?
He does, yeah. As far as I'm aware, and I know West Ham were obviously touching on him, but I think that deal's potentially gone now as well.
Yeah, as much as he was a joke, Broja the points dodger and stuff. I mean, it would be the best 5.5 forward in the game. Like if he went back there, I think to start with, anyway, in spite of some of your fixtures, which we'll come on to. So you still think you need another one then, Matt?
Yeah, and I'm hoping the lap ends up our way. I know we've put in a couple of bids. The most recent one, 20 million with 10 million add-ons, got rejected by City. I think Pep stepped in and said, no, he's not going anywhere. But I'm just hoping we can maybe keep pushing because we've clearly got a bit of a relationship with City now. So he picked up a couple of younger lads, Bazunu and Lavia, in the summer. So it'd be nice to maybe bring Delap. No doubt they'll throw a buyback clause in there. But if we could get Delap, I think he'd probably be then the best 4.5.
Would it have not just been easier just to buy the academy? Because you're going through it, mate, at some rate.
Chelsea last season, and obviously now it's City this season. We're aiming high.
Is this the philosophy of the football club, though? I mean, it's worth saying, obviously, but Livramento, when's he due back? We talk November, December, maybe?
Yeah, I'd be surprised if it
such a bad injury, so unlucky. But it's worked for you, right? Going down that route and actually buying from the best academies in the country, unproven to the naked eye in terms of top level, and he just hit the ground running, didn't he?
Yeah.
Are these other 2 boys from City who come in, Gavin Bazunu and Romeo Lavia?
Yep.
Are they going to be the same?
Yeah, they've both looked quite impressive in pre-season. I think Bozzano is a class above McCarthy from what I've seen. He's obviously had reduced minutes in pre-season, building his way up, but if he's not number 1, I'd be incredibly disappointed. Particularly, I think it was the 3-1 defeat against Leipzig. Bozzano played the first half, kept a clean sheet. McCarthy came in second half, didn't look great at all. Hassenhuttl has been full of praise, and similarly with Lavia. I mean, I was questioning whether it was worth bringing him in. Obviously, we've got Romeo, Diallo kind of sitting there. I think he probably, at the moment, the way he's playing, comes in ahead of both of those alongside Prowse.
Do you think he'd be a starter?
Yeah, I'd be amazed at Hassenhuttl's comments, particularly after the Watford game. He was incredibly impressed.
Can I ask where? And I know you're going to say centre midfield, but just define that a bit more for me if you can.
He's a defensive midfielder, so he'll probably sit and potentially allow Prowse a little bit more freedom. But again, it depends on the formation, which no doubt we'll touch on.
Get into it.
Yeah,
literally.
Let's just do it. I haven't got a script, Matt.
Yeah.
Well, pre-season, obviously.
Romeo's surely going to play. And if Romeo plays,
I don't think he will. Matt.
You think he's on his way out?
Yeah, genuinely. We've been playing 3 at the back pre-season entirely. Obviously, we're used to the whole 4-2-2-2 last season. We seem to be taking a different approach, primarily for a little bit more defensive solidity, albeit it's really reducing our impact going forward. And again, we've touched on, we probably need another creative midfielder potentially. We've brought in Aribo. I've been quite impressed with him. Stuart Armstrong has been touted by Hassenhuttl as he's enjoying playing the more advanced role. And again, he was quite impressive positionally, particularly against Watford yesterday. So again, gives him a scope. But yeah, very much a 3-4-3 is what we've kind of been going for. So yesterday, I think there's Bednarak, Salisu, and Bella-Kotchap, which we can obviously come on to. Diallo was left wing back, not Diallo, Gineppo. Obviously, with Perot hasn't played a minute in pre-season as of yet. Walker-Peters right wing back, and yeah, it was then Lavia and Prowse kind of in the holding role to allow both the Armstrongs kind of up top with a Rebo.
Okay, so three in front of Ward-Prowse and Lavia. Yeah, that's really interesting. Suj, do you want to get into Matt on James Ward-Prowse?
Get into it. Well,
you know what I mean.
Just consistent.
Yeah, it just is, isn't he? He was in my first draft because I just thought, again, at 6.5 million. We talked on the Liverpool show before this one, episode 1, about how the goalkeeper Alisson at 5.5 million is just consistent through the whole season. And JWP, there's no one else out there as an outfield player who's like him. James, you said that you don't think there's going to be another 5.5 million player that will outscore Alisson. I'm trying to think if there might be a 6.5 million player that might outscore Ward-Prowse over the season, because I think you can bank on 150, 160 points off him.
Well, he was, of the players priced in the game at 6.5 or under at the moment, he was the highest scoring last season. It shouldn't surprise. He is genuinely a regular kind of in and about top 10 midfielder in the game for his consistency. The problem with Ward-Prowse is you can go 10, 12 games with nothing, and then there'll be like 15, 8, 12, bang, bosh.
Yeah. Where
everything set piece wise just falls and happens right for him. Okay, let's talk about it. 6.5 midfielders. Odegaard, Trossard. I think we'd leave Tielemans out of conversation at the moment because he could well leave possibly. Sinistera's injured, so we can leave that out. Rashford, Eriksen, St. Maximin. Like, if you look at that on paper, Odegaard, Rashford, Trossard, Eriksen, St. Maximin, we're all very different players to Ward-Prowse, aren't they?
Yeah.
So why Ward-Prowse? Would be my question. It's not a criticism of him. Again, think back what we discussed about Alisson, Suj, about do we need to be buying a player for consistency when we might be wildcarding so early?
Yeah,
I mean, we'll put it to Matt and say, Matt, is James Ward-Prowse likely to be in your FPL team game week 1?
Not a chance.
But why not? Why James, not a chance?
You've seen our first 5 fixtures, right? It's I think, and also the way the season's panned out. I think in terms of Prowse's consistency, but you've touched on it, that the explosiveness isn't there. It's reliant on obviously the free kicks, and albeit against Chelsea, against yourselves, United.
Any game,
any game, any time. Give him 25 yards from goal, he can put it top bins. But I just think the likes of, say, Rashford, if we find out that he's particularly going to be in Ten Hag's first 11, you'd go there over Prowse, just because he could very well score 2, get an assist. Prowse isn't going to do that. You're likely to get the odd free kick here or there, or the odd assist.
Yeah, I think at that price range, I think Rashford's the exciting one,
Yeah.
remarkably, despite being very unexciting last year. You look at the first couple, Brighton, Brentford, like it's potentially there. Whereas you're looking at Ward-Prowse is Tottenham away. Leeds at home is the one really good fixture you've got in the first 5. It's worth saying Leeds possibly may still have a set piece problem. It might be something that they've worked on. But yeah, does that stand out with Leicester, Man United and Chelsea, the 3 afterwards, if you don't end up wildcarding really early? It's not great. But then I guess Leeds and Leicester in the first 3, he got 2 assists at White Hart Lane last year and scored in the home game against us.
Yep.
Maybe we should be looking at him more. Yeah,
and I guess it depends on who nails kind of in that. If we're going down the front 3 route, someone like Aribo, for instance, he's $1 million cheaper, so that mill could be used elsewhere. A lot of people obviously going big at the back. Debate Haaland, Kane, Salah. Do we go there? If you were to gamble and potentially say wildcard game week 6, we've got a reasonable run from then to the World Cup, and then a pretty decent run post World Cup. Someone like Aribo might be a good placeholder there, against someone like a Neto from game week 6, if you were to wildcard around that page.
Che Adams same price as Ward-Prowse. Is that a conversation?
Not at the moment.
Why?
I think Ward-Prowse, Ward-Prowse struggles a little bit with players a little bit cheaper than him as well, James. I mean, Guimaraes is 6 million. He's template. He must be still over 40% owned. Neto at 5.5.
No, 20-ish. Guimaraes.
Is he 20? What about Neto?
Similar.
Yeah.
But both template, right? Both are in the most selected 11.
Very close. Neto definitely would be part of it.
And that little bit cheaper than Ward-Prowse. I think he's struggling against those players that are a little bit cheaper.
Yeah, I agree.
Che Adams, Matt? Why is it not a conversation? Because I look at it with Breuer going and think, even with your new man coming in from Bordeaux, surely he's going to be first choice regularly now, right?
I think so. He has to, because obviously age-wise, obviously we've got Mara coming in. If Delap comes in again, he's another kid, albeit full of talent. I think Adams has to be a starter. He hasn't started every preseason game, but there's probably a reason for that. And we don't want to kill him before we start the season, because I think he has to be one of, if not the first name on the team sheet at the moment. He'll have to lead the line, and he's pretty good at that. He puts himself about. He's got some strength, got some pace. I don't think he'll get more than 15 goals for the season, but he does have a slightly different dynamic to his game. He tries to bring people into it. He lets the defense know that he's there, and that's the kind of player that I think we'll need if we're going to go down the kind of formation that we're having.
That's not his minutes. Looking last year, 7 goals, 4 assists doesn't sound amazing.
No,
say 2,000 minutes though.
Yeah,
you're talking about 60% roughly.
Yep.
That's not helpful. If you can jump that up to 100%, maybe it becomes 11 goals and 7 assists or something, and then that's not too shabby actually at all. Interestingly, the other forwards, just while we're talking about 6.5 million players, Julian Alvarez at Man City is going to be difficult to see him getting starts.
Yeah.
Similar with Iheanacho at Leicester. Maupay and Welbeck at Brighton. I know Salernitana in Italy have bid for Maupay, finally get rid of him from mid-deadline streams. And Mitrovic is 6.5. But Adams doesn't even stand out in that pack, I don't think. No. Interestingly. Talk us about Joe Rebo then, because it's the one attacking player not in from Man City.
Yeah, I was quite impressed that we went for him, to be fair. And obviously coming from Rangers, he's certainly a talent. Likes to get himself forward. There's a few kind of snippets going around following the Watford game where he puts a couple of defenders on their arse. He's definitely got some talent in there. It's how he's going to link up, I think, particularly with Che. If he could develop a partnership, someone like Adams could give up the space that Aribo needs to run into. It's another acquisition that we've made in which it's the prospect rather than now. Obviously, he's come from Rangers. I think Rangers fans are probably disappointed that he's gone, and that's to our benefit. Whether he can hit the ground running in the Premier League, obviously it's a completely different game. So I'm a Hearts fan as well, and I know full well the difference between the SPL and the Premier League. So there's a difference between the pre-season, the games against someone like Livingston, and then jumping straight into playing Spurs away on the first game of the season.
There's history again here, though, isn't there? Van Dijk, Wanyama, Fraser Forster.
Yep. albeit on the other side.
But not the yeah, true. But not the first players you'd have bought from Scotland who would end up doing quite well, right?
Yeah.
So he's a very talented player. Exactly what you said. Like he likes to run with a thing.
He does.
I don't know if it would quite equate to the attacking returns in our league, but I mean, I owned him in the Fantasy Scotland format. Majority of second half of last season was paying sort of 8.5 for him, I want to say.
Okay.
And there was no way he would have been moving, but then he's playing for one of the two best teams in the league, rather than someone who's perhaps more concerned about the other way. Before we talk about some of the rest of the players, Matt, how are you feeling about the ownership at the club at the moment?
I think it's gone in a direction that we probably wanted. It's good to see that they're willing to spend a bit of cash and try and bring back the youth culture of Southampton, rather than going for players that potentially are backups. We're really looking for the young talent again. We've always kind of done that, but there was a bit of a lull. In at least now we aren't in limbo. Like there was 3-4 years where we didn't really know what was going on. Time and time again, there was the fan forums, questions were asked, and we didn't really get answers. Whereas obviously when Rasmussen and whatnot came in, I think it's positive. It has to be. Obviously, we've seen what they did at Brentford, and if anything like that can come to St Mary's, it has to give us a boost.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. Keepers.
So more keepers than strikers.
We had a period over the Christmas last year where you panicked and you got Willie Caballero in because you didn't have a goalkeeper.
Yeah.
That was a cock up, excuse the pun. He's what, fourth choice now?
Yeah.
Talk to us about your keepers, because you got two new ones in. Bazunu, people know a lot about, but there's another keeper coming. Is he a threat?
No, I think he's very much been brought in as a prospect. You're talking about Liss, aren't you?
Yeah.
No, I think he's probably one for the future. I'd be surprised if he didn't claim number one for our B team, our under 23s, and play that way and get himself some experience. I still think we made a mistake in terms of letting Forster go. Obviously, he's gone to yourselves. I'd much rather see McCarthy go out the door than Forster, even if it was, backup Forster proved towards, particularly second half of last season. He got the shirt. So that was disappointing. But yeah, for me, Bazunu kind of needs to claim that number one spot.
And do you think he will?
Yeah, he's been impressive in pre-season.
So if someone says to you, Matt, I want to get Bazunu as my 4.5 million keeper, what are you saying?
To start the season? No, again, I think someone like Raya, potentially a better option to start with. It's too much of a risk because one, the fixtures, and two, McCarthy might well start the first couple of games, and I think most Saints fans would be disappointed. But from Hassenhuttl comments, I'd be very surprised if that was the case. We've got 2 preseason games left, Monaco and Villarreal, Wednesday and Saturday. If he starts at least the Saturday game against Villarreal, I think that would probably be as close as to our starting 11 for the following week. If that was the case, he's in there. But again, you might find that people jump on him to start with, suddenly realize how poor we are defensively in the first 6 weeks, come off, and then when our fixtures do turn, you might better pick them up for 4.4. So
are you
these fixtures?
Go on, Suj, sorry.
I was going to say these fixtures really basically taint any conversation around Southampton players at the start of the season. Bar JWP, it's really one of those where that early wild card could be beneficial for some after 5 weeks, but then we'll have seen how you play for 5 weeks and the formation, and we'll have a lot more information as well.
Yeah, and I'm hoping that change in formation solidifies us, because there was too many times last season where we had defensive slip ups. I'm still concerned that we haven't brought in another centre back. I personally just don't like Bednarek. I think he's a liability at times. We've obviously got Lianco is there as well. I'd like to see someone with a bit more experience come in and try and lead from the back alongside, say, Bella-Kotchap, who's looked particularly impressive. And then obviously we've got Salisu, who again has his moments. Last season got sent off a couple of times, but occasionally had, a worldie, a 10 out of 10. He's very much a 4 or a 10 at the moment. I've not seen enough consistency from him. I think that's why we're going 3, just so they can cover each other's arses, to be fair.
would always say, Suj, putting an extra defender there doesn't necessarily
solve the problem.
But we have seen, we're about to see a very different Southampton. Because I think the perception from the FPL manager will be with Saints is kind of a don't ever leave your player out against Southampton kind of. I mean, most people aren't going to go and do that with respect, but you know it can go either way. We can get the Arsenal at home, where, I mean, admittedly, they had a lot of efforts on goal, but it was really resolute, hard defensive. You won 1-0.
Yep.
But we could just easily get the 6-0 against Chelsea, where if they didn't have Real Madrid 3 days later, we were potentially looking at another 9-0.
Easily. Could have been more. Should have been more.
So what is this going to be permanent, do you think, a back three?
I'd be surprised if it wasn't, solely because of those games. Every season for the last 3 seasons, we've had an absolute kicking. And then it has been at that point where we've gone, shit, we've got to do something about this. And we've generally got tighter. And that's usually led to either a tweak in formation, a tweak in personnel. I think he's potentially looked at that and gone, well, I have to think of something. If we start the season badly and concede 4 or 5 in a couple of these fixtures, I mean, his job's on the line. And the fact he survived what he's already survived, there's clearly a bit of faith there. I think the players are still, with him. There is some, talks about some backroom issues towards the end of last season, but I think they were just predominantly rumours. I didn't really see anything on the pitch that felt that they weren't listening to him. But just in terms of the personnel we've got, I think he's probably had to make a change, and it has led to us. We've only scored 1 goal in pre-season so far, but particularly against Watford, we looked incredibly tight. Leipzig, we were kind of opened up a little bit, but that was expected. Players were rusty.
But that's what I'm saying. Is there a concern this has flipped the other way?
Yeah.
Where you become a bit too defensive, and actually, with respect, he's not going to be the best defense in the league. You are still going to concede some goals, albeit it might come down quite a bit. But now it flips the other way where you're struggling to score.
Yeah, 100%.
Is that a real concern now?
Yeah. And I think the preseason games I've seen online, and after every game, Hassenhuttl reiterated the same line of, we've struggled in the final third. We're struggling to create chances. When we get chances, we're not putting them away. Any striker in the world could come in, and if you're not, creating chances in and around the 18-yard box, you're just going to find it incredibly difficult, which is why someone like Mara, I don't want a 19-year-old lad to come in, be flogged up front, and nothing's put for him, because if he goes 6-8 games without getting on the score sheet, his confidence is going to be hit. And the exact same thing happened to Broja last season.
Yeah, I wonder, I'm just thinking to myself, James, if I'd be surprised if you told me that Hassenhuttl is the first manager to get sacked next season. I probably wouldn't be that surprised. I think Frank Lampard is more at risk.
Yeah,
but the thing, but I think the thing with clubs like Everton, Southampton, there's a certain level of expectation that maybe the promoted clubs don't carry the same weight of expectation. So when it doesn't go well for the clubs like Everton or Southampton, that's when people really get kind of itchy fingers on the trigger, and managers can go. And Hassenhuttl, like you said, he's had some ups and downs, and he's always kind of rode it out. But you do worry. It wouldn't surprise me, James. I don't think he's going to be the first manager to get sacked. I think that's probably going to end up being Frank Lampard.
I mean,
but it wouldn't surprise me,
Matt knows, we discussed this towards the end of last season, saying like, look, if it does start badly, they may make a change. Obviously, look, the ownership's changed at the start of this year as well, so they may want their own person in.
Yeah.
That said, the ethos that they're kind of going down in terms of Saints must surely realise that a lot of the players that they're buying are potential at the moment.
Yeah.
Even the likes of Aribo, we can't know for sure how that's going to equate from the SPFL to the EPL. The boys from City look super talents. I mean, in Lavia's case, City were adamant they've 40 million buyback clause. I think they inserted in his contract. You think most people never heard of this kid. City won a 40 million buyback clause. They obviously rate him really highly. Yeah. We don't actually know what that's going to look like, and it could be one because they're young. They start great, and then you get to the other side of the World Cup, and it's flogged. What you said with Broja, fatigued now, tired. Yeah. So, in terms of the profile players you're buying, you would think that high energy fits in with what Hassenhuttl teams at their best look like, right?
Yeah,
it's definitely. Only going back to January, February, where you came to our place. You battered us, mate. It's a joke. How you ended up winning the game late on. You should have been 3-4-0 up at half time. 100%. Murdered us. And everyone went, oh, they'll be knackered for Man United on Saturday. Saturday lunchtime, 2.5 days later, outplayed them, drew, could have easily won that. And then like that, it flips again and you're losing games you shouldn't lose.
Yeah.
And Saints, unfortunately, go through these runs, as do Brighton, but Southampton's can be very extreme, where suddenly it's like, ain't won for 9-10 games, but then you go and win 4 out of 7 or something, and everything's okay. But I would think the profile player you're going for, changing the manager might not be a good thing, mate.
No. They're very likely coming in because they've had those conversations with Hassenhuttl and they've said, look, you get opportunities. Similarly, Livramento obviously came in last season, didn't expect to be thrown in straight away. Hassenhuttl gave him an opportunity. A different manager might come in, look at that and say, look, you guys need some time. We'll throw in the reliable, the Redmond and whatnot that have been here. These potential players that are coming in are no doubt better prospects, and Hassenhuttl gives them that chance.
Talk to me, Matt, about Stuart Armstrong.
James, you took the question out of my mouth. You're
Really?
working your way from you. Honestly, it's about goalkeepers, defenders.
Yeah,
Like, when we get into midfielders, because I want to know about Armstrong at 5.0.
But I bet Suj didn't read what I read at the weekend about Stuart Armstrong.
What did you read?
Well, I read that he played.
I don't subscribe to the same magazines as you, James. So I have no idea what you're.
We both have the same password for us. Stuart Armstrong, did he play up front at Watford, Matt?
Yeah.
Could you define that? Are we saying, because you said with Aribo and Adam Armstrong?
Yeah.
Are you talking about Stuart Armstrong right and Aribo left, or vice versa? Or because my understanding that I got from it was that Stuart Armstrong was the most advanced.
Yeah, 100%. Aribo was more right and Armstrong was more left. No, Adam was more left. And then, yes, Stuart was kind of up and through the middle. And again, Hassenhuttl made comments about the fact that Stuart enjoys playing that forward role. It's far more advanced than where he's been in previous seasons. Last season, I think it's unfair to judge him on because he was injured for most of it. And then when he did come back, he never looked fit. So for him to have a good pre-season, obviously for me, unfortunate that Scotland didn't make the World Cup, but probably positive for him because it means that he gets that rest over the winter again, comes back, hopefully again stays fit, and he could be key to how well we do this season.
Stuart Armstrong gets mentioned significantly on this podcast every July and August every year.
He does.
And then
same last
between
season.
September and May, he gets mentioned. Oh, Armstrong got a great goal at the weekend, and that's it.
Yeah.
But we flirt with him every summer, don't we, Suj?
Well, I would have had him in at the start of last season had he not.
He got injured.
Had he not got injured, he would have been in my squad at the start of last season, James. And I think there was a lot of people that would have had him at the start of last season. I don't remember what he started last season at, but it would have been 5.5, I think.
I think it was.
Yeah, and he's $500,000 cheaper this year at 5 million.
Yep.
The problem is,
he must have, because his end price last year was 5.8.
Yeah.
So it's probably 6, Suj.
Wow. And
must have been if he finished at 5.8.
Problem is, if he goes off and is playing up front for you, it becomes a 10-player game. Everyone's going to stick him as the cheap enabler in midfield and leave him there.
And I think it's a tricky one. I wouldn't read too much into it because, again, he's playing there because he kind of has to. So obviously we've only got Adams and Adam Armstrong, and I think it's been seen by most Adam Armstrong isn't an out-and-out striker. He's struggled, obviously, in the season gone by. So I guess almost Stuart had to play there. Adams was on the bench for the game. We don't have anyone else. So, someone like Mara I would expect to play there rather than Stu, and then Stu would probably be pushed out wide.
All right, well, that's boring then, isn't it? That's killed 5 minutes a conversation. Can he be an option, seriously? Because you've got, I know Leon Bailey's, we speak to Lee Jackson about him, was kind of standing out, but it must be severe doubts about whether he's going to start or not. But that 5 million price bracket, there's not a lot there. It's where you basically get your Xhakas and your Højbjergs and the people who are regularly going to start but not going to get you the returns.
Yeah.
But someone could break out from there. All I'd say about him is I know there's a bloody good footballer in there.
100%.
Definitely.
Yep.
But we're not starting with him, are we?
No, not at the moment. No. And again, it could be one of those at wildcard. I just think Saints seem to be that kind of team where our fixtures turn when people are potentially wildcarding for the better. And again, our fixtures are exceptional the moment we come back from the World Cup. So I think we'll be the kind of team, and obviously we spoke about it kind of over DMs on Twitter briefly. we're the type of team where you're going to find a lot of us end up with at least 2 Saints players, I think, particularly post the World Cup.
I can tell you all now that Matt is on the last clash of the correspondence before the World Cup.
Yep.
Because Matt's right. If you look at Southampton's fixtures after the World Cup, they are staggeringly good. I just want to tell you quickly, game week 17 is the first one. So Southampton's run is Brighton at home, Fulham away, Forest at home, Everton away, Villa at home, Brentford away. I think it goes on. Yeah, Wolves at home. 2 after that's Leeds away as well.
Yep.
Staggeringly good run. The sort of run that actually no one actually has at the start.
No.
Because if you had that run at the start,
Throw
a lot
it
of
in.
us would be talking, going James Ward-Prowse. I'm looking at Che Adams, or a name we haven't mentioned yet, who I have to say, good reports every single time you hear about and gets better and better is Kyle Walker-Peters.
Oh, he's a talent. I mean, why Jose let him leave your club? I've no idea.
Well, it's because he's short. And because he thought his surname was too long.
Yeah.
Apparently. We all saw that on All or Nothing.
We did.
Said,
we did.
Can I call you Walker or Peters? No, my name's Walker-Peters, you prick. Anyway,
he's
in the FPL world, we can call him KWP. It's all right.
Great player.
Right or left? We're playing right at the moment with Gineppo is covering left.
Yep.
Again, if you're going wing back, you're short in those areas, aren't you?
At the moment, yeah. Obviously, Perot isn't fit, so Walker-Peters is obviously nailed on. With Livramento out, Gineppo can play there, but it's not his position. He talks about the fact that he enjoys the defensive side of the game. He's not particularly great at it.
Yeah, Walker-Peters even, I think 4.5. I feel like he's really won for the unlimited transfers period. I bet he's a name if he's fit. And even so, if he doesn't go to the World Cup, which is not impossible with England's left-sided problems, by the way, because he can cover out that side. Yeah. It'll be talked about a lot in the summer, but it feels wild to go with it at the moment because you look at it and go, okay, right, I can go with him. Who am I looking at can be a good rotation for him? And you start looking, going, I'm not picking him very often because of the fixtures that Saints have got, unfortunately.
You'd probably play him once in the first 6 games, and even then that's against Leeds. So
any love for Gineppo?
No, he's playing at the moment because positionally we need someone to cover there. He isn't the player that I think we thought we might have got. He's talented. He has it in him. You know, we've seen a couple of his goals have been exceptional. You know, he can cut in, he can run down the line. There was a few times he put in some brilliant crosses. But yeah, I just don't think when we've got our strongest 11, I don't think he's part of it.
What is that strongest 11 on paper? Let's rule Tino out at the moment.
I was going to say rule Tino out. For me, Bazunu in goal, Walker-Peters right back.
Right wing back?
Right wing back. Yeah. We'll go 3 at the back. It'll be Bednarak, Salisu, Bella-Kotchap, and then ideally Perot left wing back.
Like him. He was really good at Tottenham.
Good player. It'll be Prowse and Lavia. And then at the moment, fitness-wise, probably Aribo, Che Adams, and Stuart Armstrong.
If I said to you, Matt, you've got to start with Aribo or Armstrong, Stuart.
Yep.
Who are you starting with?
Stuart.
You'd save the money.
Yeah.
Is that why? That's the answer.
Yeah. I think, yeah.
You're so harsh.
With Aribo being so much of an unknown, I've seen him at Rangers and he is a talent, but the Premier League, as I've said, is a completely different ballgame. At least Stuart has had the experience here. He's a wiser head. I think he's potentially got a lot to his game that we've not seen. So yeah, for me, Stuart at $500,000 cheaper, it's a no-brainer at the moment.
Okay. Do you think definite starter?
Yeah. Well, with the squad that we've got, and obviously we know Mara's coming in. I think he's coming in expecting to play. Given we're signing him late on, it might be a case that he takes a few games to get going before we see a bit of rotation there. But yeah, for me, Stuart Armstrong starts.
I think if someone's got this Einstein idea where they're going to wildcard in game week 12 or 14 or something, I don't think he's the worst pick for consistency and stuff. But just even at that price, just such a struggle to make the case with the first 6 fixtures or so.
Yeah.
That you've got, mate. I think could Lavia be a 4.5 option? I think particularly for those who are maybe looking at 5-3-2 or something and going with 2 of them.
If you wanted someone that consistently played, and obviously again, I'm going on what I've seen. He is a defensive midfielder. You're not going to get many attacking returns, if any, from him, I expect. But if you wanted the consistency in minutes, he could well be the type of player that picks up 2s and 3s week in, week out. But again, there are probably other prospects out there that potentially venture slightly further forward. I think the fact that he'll play alongside Prowse, he will be the one to hold, because obviously Prowse is that creative asset. We kind of need him to pick up the ball deep, potentially run into space, play the ball through. For me, I don't know if Lavia has got that in him, and whether he's potentially just an upgrade on the type of player that Romeo is, but hopefully less bookings.
I like Romeo, you know that, but I
Good
think
player.
there's a phasing out. I'd also say he's one of the worst priced FPL players in the game. Like, how in the world that's 5 rather than 4.5?
No idea.
A proper, you know, I say everyone's underpriced, Suj. That's one that's not. If you can find an overpriced player in this game, you really shouldn't be going with him. If he was 4.5, he's going to play regularly. And exactly what you said, it get booked 10, 11 times. He plays every week. Anyways,
honestly, if you put a $5 on him every week, you'd make money.
Okay, noted, mate. What can you tell us about Bella-Kotchap? Great name.
Yeah, I love it.
Going to be in a lot of FPL team names.
I've already seen quite a few. Yeah, bottle of Bella-Kotchap and whatnot. It's
okay.
That's good.
Yeah. There's a lot out there. He's looked good. He's promising. Obviously, he's coming from the German side. I can't remember the name, but
was it Mines? I want to say maybe.
No.
Shit. I'll check that for you while you're talking about.
Yeah, double check. But yeah, again, he's looked promising. I think it was highly rated. Obviously, another kind of young talent that's coming in. He looks composed in the games that I've seen him play. And occasionally we lack a bit of composure at the back, particularly with someone like Bednarak. And he's consistently played throughout pre-season. So for me, has to be amongst that back 3 line. Who knows what he's like in terms of set pieces. Obviously, we haven't created a lot of chances at the moment, but he could well be the type of defender that goes up in the box.
You expect him to start from what you're saying, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. Bochum was the German team.
Yeah, I knew it began with B. Yeah.
I feel like I could have just said Mines and
no one would have known. No one's checking where he's come from. It's
right. Let's do some quick fires on a few players we haven't mentioned then, Matt. Jan Valery. He's 4.0 and he did occasionally get in the side when it was a back 3 last year.
Yeah.
Is there anything there, or has it got to be an injury crisis?
No, it'll be an injury crisis for him to get game time.
Elianusi at 5.5. Showed flashes again last year, didn't he?
Yeah, he went through phases. I think he went through a phase of probably playing 10, 11 games in a row and then got kind of pushed out again. I like him as a player. Again, another one that's kind of come from Scotland and coming back to us. We loaned him back and then came back again. For me, probably doesn't fit as one of the first 3 if we're going for this formation.
Nathan Redmond, is that dream ever going to be fulfilled?
No, I think you're going to be let down again, James.
I don't think I'm going to be let down because I don't think I'm going to go there, mate. Diallo, is he going to be good enough?
No. Again, shows glimpses, but I think he's probably 4th in the pecking order now. Obviously, I think he falls behind Romeo.
We're saying kind of behind Lavia as well now.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're up on Lavia getting straight in, aren't you? I like that. Nathan Tello's a promising talent, isn't he?
Yes, and I think he'll again can get minutes, providing he doesn't get loaned out. Similarly, I was hoping Will Smallbone would stay.
He's gone to Stoke, hasn't he?
Yeah, he's gone to Stoke on loan for the season. He's another one of those players that he's kind of had his own personal issues over the last couple of years, but got brought back into the squad last season. He had a few games where he looked quite sharp, and I thought it'd be good to maybe give him a bit of game time, similarly to Nathan Teller. But again, there are better players in the team, and he'll get minutes, cup games particularly, or if we've got a bit of an injury, there's no reason why you can't throw him in. He's got a hell of a run on.
Theo Walcott.
Yeah, I can't.
I'm not asking this a serious FPL question. I'm just asking Matt's opinion on him.
Yeah, I mean, we brought him back because he's a Southampton boy, but
because it was a nice promotional video, basically. Yeah,
It was to big up the club. He's never going to play.
All right, Adam Armstrong. Why has it not been what I thought it would be?
I don't know.
Because this time last year, I I really thought it was just the right
Yeah.
fit. I thought it was
Likewise.
the right fit for him, right fit for you. It seemed the right step up from what he'd done at Blackburn for a few years.
Yeah, and it may well be that he needs the season gone by to kick himself up the arse a little bit and work a bit harder. Obviously, don't know what goes on behind training, but there's a reason why he was kind of dropped behind. Often you saw Shane Long coming on ahead of him, for instance, last season. He's being given minutes at the moment, mainly because we have to. But if he can pick up a run of games, I think he scored the only goal that we've had in pre-season so far, and it was a decent finish.
Matt, that's so depressing to hear that. The only goal of pre-season so
Yeah,
far.
he scored the only goal.
What should we watch out for? You, as you said, you've got 2 more pre-season friendlies, and they're both at St Mary's, aren't they?
Yeah.
What should we be watching out for in these 2 games that could suddenly change your mind on something?
If we start creating chances, would be nice. And who's potentially the one on the end of them is one to keep an eye on. Obviously, at the moment, we've saw a bit of rotation amongst that front 3, both in terms of personnel and positionally. It'd be good to see who is the target man, essentially, from that. And then how we integrate the likes of Walker-Peters in, if Perot does get game time, which one of them is the one that tends to go forward the most? Because often last season, particularly when Livramento had knocks, Walker-Peters was the one to bomb forward and Livramento tended to hold back. It could be a similar case again if Perot was fit. He might be the one that's a bit more defensive solidity, fall into a 4 if we're going forward. He kind of tucks in, and then on the way back, obviously Walker-Peters then presses going forward and then tucks back into the 5.
Okay. Good analysis, mate. I got one more question, I think, before we let you go. Who's your game week 1 captain?
At the moment, it's Son.
Okay, elaborate.
I'm in the mindset that Saints, particularly going away to your lot, you
won 3-2 last season.
Yeah, but you've made some exceptional signings. And
none of them started in our friendly on Saturday.
Well, nah,
still
honestly,
2 weeks.
Yeah, I just think you'll have far too much for us on the day. I've seen what Son can do to us. You know, I just remember that game at home, absolutely tore us apart. He's the kind of player that can get in behind Bednarak, and that worries me.
But back 3, that's less likely, isn't it? And I've spoken about this as a Tottenham problem a lot.
I'd still back him personally, but that's more on the basis that I need to be convinced that these 3, particularly at the moment, can play in that back 3. Because like you said, adding another defender doesn't exactly solve the problem. It's looked more solid, but then I've still got visions of that Leipzig game, albeit pre-season. All they did was tuck a ball over the top and someone was able to run in behind.
I always say about your team that I don't like playing you. Always saying it.
And I think it's going to be the same this season again. As much as we're probably not hyped up and thinking Southampton are going to challenge for the European spots, I still don't look forward to the games against you. As much as James said it, we had the cup tie last year as well, where you beat us, and that was again a good performance. And you'll do more than enough, I think, to stay up.
Yeah,
but we just
4 points.
Also not getting massively excited about the season as well.
What I don't like about playing them is the fact that I know they will match and often beat all the work rate and all the stuff that comes with that. They will come in our face and they don't let you breathe. I mean, as I said many times, the way you played at our place in January just completely dominated us on and off the ball, completely overrun us. It's such a credit to you. I'm a little concerned that you're moving away from that. And that doesn't worry me in terms of it worries me. We might struggle to break you down game week 1, but it doesn't worry me in terms of I'm worried all Southampton are come and turn us over. Whereas like in January, I could have said to you, look, if you're not on it, Southampton, and it's not to say you won't beat us game week 1, maybe you will change. But I think if you're coming in and what ends up more like a 5-3-2, then I'm not overly concerned that it's the Southampton that concerns me. Does that make sense? It's a different setup and a different team, and it might be what's right for you, but it might make you a little bit more predictable when your results over the last few years have often been so unpredictable.
100%, and that's the worry.
All I'd say.
Yeah, I don't want to see a change in formation take away from our pressing game, because that's one of the best things we do. Like you said, we get in the faces of teams City absolutely hate playing us every single season for the last 3 seasons. I think they've had a tough game against them, and not many teams can say they've gone there and done that. Pep's continuously been, quite positive about the way we play, and has always said, saying to one of the toughest teams that they play at the Etihad. So providing the change of formation doesn't take that away from our game, I'd be a little bit more positive. But just from what I've seen in pre-season so far, that isn't there at the moment. And it might be that it's taken a few games to implement the new system, new players coming in. But yeah, just looking at those fixtures, the first 5 games, I'm worried that we'll be in amongst it at the bottom 3 straight away. And then we'll need to start looking at the following 4 or 5 games where we have to start picking up points. We don't want to get to game week 10 and we've picked up 4 points, because that is very much a potential looking at these fixtures.
Do you think you're in danger of going down?
No, I think we'll inevitably go on one of those runs at least twice this season, particularly after the World Cup. We're going to be the type of squad, I think, where not many of our players are going to go. And that could be beneficial for us as a team. It gives us a bit of a reset, and we don't often get that over Christmas. Saints tend to struggle, and I think it's, again, the pressing game like you've touched on. Hopefully maybe this mid-season break might help that and give the players a chance to refresh more than anything.
Suj, anything to add?
No, not really. I can't see myself going back to James Ward-Prowse for the start of the season, but definitely have my eyes open on how your season goes. And like you, Matt, I'm not worried that you're going to get relegated or at risk of getting relegated.
No.
But I also don't think you're going to be a threat for the European spots either. And just sit in that middle ground. But
if the likes of James Ward-Prowse picked up a serious injury, he never does, plays every game, always. But if he did, and he lost that kind of leadership experience in there,
I'd be a bit more
start looking around the team and think this is a really young team.
Yeah.
And I'd be a bit concerned from it. I haven't had all the correspondent predictions back yet, Matt.
Outrageous.
But I've had 15 back. Do you want to know how many of them think you'll go down?
3.
2.
That's all right. Yeah, I'll let him off then.
Where do you think you'll finish?
I've predicted as a 14th, I think.
Yeah, about right. I think that might be at the top end of this year, possibly. It's getting tougher, isn't it?
Yeah.
You look at the teams above you and think they're all decent now.
Yeah. The likes of Palace, Brighton, Wolves, I think they'll all likely finish above us. We'll be challenging teams like Forest, and obviously with Newcastle, with their money, they're going to shoot well up now. Yeah, I think the likes of Forest, Brentford are probably where we're at the moment.
Suj Ward-Prowse for you now, yes or no?
No, I'm afraid not for the start of the season, but I'll always have 2 eyes on JWP. Yeah, always.
Amazing consistency, but I think with the fixtures and the likely early wild cards, there's probably something better at the same price that you can gamble on, I think, personally. I think the most likely one for me to be wearing white and red from Southampton opening day might be a player who's not with you yet, because obviously if Liam Delap does happen,
he's going to be in 70% of the teams. I think
it's the 4.5 million answer for everybody. I think.
Yeah.
It won't play off. It won't play every week. I think the problem is City obviously want him to go somewhere where he's going to play every week.
Yeah.
And I just wonder now that the deal's done for the Bordeaux forward, if City might go, actually, no, enough.
And I don't think they want to get rid of him permanently, which seems to be the big issue.
Agreed. Matt, thank you so much for your time, mate. Brilliant.
Pleasure.
Yeah, fantastic. And tell the listeners where they can find you on the old, as James calls it, Bird app.
That's my line.
Go on.
I forgot already.
I
forgot. Matt, tell everyone where they can follow you on the Bird app, mate.
CS_wipeout.
Perfect.
Before we let you go as well, do you want to talk about season keepers just very briefly?
Yeah. Most people would have probably seen that we've done a post, decided to kind of step away from podding for this season. Work's just taken over at the moment, and as you probably know, trying to rearrange this bloody podcast for me. So we felt it unfair to the listeners that we'll half-arse it. So it's not to say we won't be back, but just to thank everybody for listening, and obviously thank yourself for giving us the opportunity for the week where you let us use your platform, and that was much appreciated.
Do come back. Don't
no problem.
Don't give it up, mate.
Yeah,
agreed. Definitely.
Brilliant, Matt. Thank you so much. Go on, Suj, ask me.
James, go on then. So where are we heading to from Southampton as we continue the march on Correspondent Week?
We're heading to the place that's got a really disproportionate ratio of women versus men. We're going to be speaking to Mark Southerns about his Nottingham Forest. I know you've all been waiting for this one. So
who's
next.
Mark Southerns?
Who's Mark Southerns?
No,
Matt,
listeners.
Matt, tell him who Mark Southerns is.
The GOAT.
There you go. He's the GOAT.
So make sure wherever you are listening to the podcast or whether you're on YouTube, you hit the subscribe button and the notification bell. You will get alerted as soon as the podcast with Mark drops later on today. Other than that, though, stay safe and ciao for now.
Thanks, Matt. Good luck to the season, mate. Be nice to each other, everyone. Cue music, please, man, child. Anyone want to do a GOAT? Bah.